Yes, ma'am, please.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Quality Improvement Committee of the AOGD and the entire family of the Pan Delhi Gynecologist Forum, I, Dr. Jyoti Bhaskar, welcome each one of you, my seniors, my colleagues, my friends, to this webinar. I'm indeed honored to welcome our guests of honor, Dr. Sharda Jain, the true mentor of mentors, and Dr. Achla Batra, a leader who has shown how to lead by patience and praise. Our esteemed speaker, Dr. Giten Sharma, who with his experience and expertise makes a very complex medical legal situation so simple. Our respected and knowledgeable chairpersons, Dr. Raj Bukhari and Dr. Aparna Sharma, and my accomplished panelists, who are going to open up their heart and really speak out today about telemedicine. This is an unconventional webinar. Telemedicine is not about theory that you can read from the books. It is basically an art that you acquire either through your experiences, which may be good or bad, or by learning from the experts. In this webinar, we have the right mix of both. On a lighter note, I hope each one of you has already ordered your coffee and cookies, because I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to get up from your chair for the next 1.5 hours. With this, I hand it over to my co-organizing chairperson, as well as my very good friend, Dr. Meenakshi Ahuja, to invite the guests of honor.
Thank you so much, Jyoti. And I think without much ado, I'm going to start. Can I have the first slide, please? I have this proud privilege and opportunity to invite people who I really admire here. So today our guests of honor are people who are completely accomplished in their fields of obs and gynae. And not only are they accomplished in their fields, I think the most important thing, like Jyoti said, is that they are leaders and who handhold us. And they are both people who I admire immensely. Dr. Sharda Jain, founder and Secretary General of Delhi Gynae Forum, founder and chairman of Life Care Center, Life Care IVF, Life Care ABS, and Life Care Aesthetic and Global STEMGen. She is the leader of leaders, and she has inspired not only me, but I think, and not only doctors in Delhi, but I think currently doctors all over the country. Has Madam joined? I would request her to say a few words of encouragement, and as always, a pleasure to hear
her. Thank you, Dr. Ahuja, for very, very kind words. I always say that the knowledge is power. Technology is also power. And as far as our modern medicine is concerned, it is both art and science. And it had been so far a bit difficult to understand why the telemedicine was not allowed earlier. There had been an order by the Honorable High Court and then the Supreme Court that, this kind of consultations, can call for a lot of problems for us. But now during this emergency, the COVID times, which we have never seen before, and we'll never see this kind of things, at least this has opened this particular new area of telemedicine. And I think not only during these troubled times that you require telemedicine to reach, but I think, this will open up to reach the farthest, remotest areas where the patients are there with little expertise. The paramedic persons can be trained on the other side. They can do a clinical examinations, can pass it on that particular information to the doctors, and this can be very useful. The sad part till now was that even the doctor could not advertise that I practice in this particular area. So the many companies were making billions of money trying to exploit the doctors, and that is a different thing altogether. But telemedicine is a new science. A lot of training has been given by the Medical Council of India, but the majority of the gynecologists have not been able to have an access to that kind of formal training, which is really required by all of us. But I think, our great speaker, great guru as for the medical legal aspects are concerned, Dr. Gitendra Sharma is here. He had been a past chairperson of the Medical Legal Committee of FOXI. And I have seen him for the last 2 years. He's a very keen, passionate teacher, gets really deep into the subjects, and the kind of inputs which he gives to the people are, if we take it very seriously, they can do a great job. So I'm here to listen to his talk and go wiser with a lot of take-home messages. So I'm looking forward to your talk, Dr. Gitendra Sharma. And I'm very happy that the AOGD, DGF, and everybody has combined together. And this is one thing, not only one talk of this kind has to be there. It has to be repeated every 6 months, at least 2-3 times. Then only the message will definitely go across. So with this, thank you very much for giving me this 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would now like to invite Dr. Achla Batra to say a few words. Dr. Achla Batra is a true leader of leaders. A true leader, I say, is someone who not only leads, but teaches how others should lead and holds everyone together with them. I think Dr. Achla Batra exemplifies that. And she has really made a great bond with all of us here. And we are proud that she leads the AOGD today. A few words about Dr. Achla Batra. Can I have her slide, please? Professor Achla Batra is Professor, Department of Obs and Gynae at VMCC and Safdarjung Hospital, New Delhi. She is President AOGD 2021-22, and she has earlier been the President of NACHI Delhi chapter. Dr. Achla, please.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you for your kind words. And I'm privileged to be sharing the platform with my teacher, Dr. Sharda Jain, and very happy to have Dr. Gitendra to speak about telemedicine. It is said that when one door closes, another opens. Now, with the restricted mobility of the patients, restrictive availability of the healthcare service, telemedicine is going to be the way forward. Telemedicine has not been explored much in our country, but now, since it has been allowed, the physician can actually, interact with the patient. A neurologist can actually ask the patient to do some activities and see what is actually wrong. A wound can be seen by a picture or direct examination patient showing. So it's going to become like a whole ecosystem, starting from taking appointment and then giving advice and whatever is possible. But of course, with this comes a lot of issues, maybe medical legal also. So how we should be able to avoid those issues, how we should be doing our telepractice, I think Dr. Gitendra is going to tell us. And I'm very happy that Jyoti has, thought of doing this along with Meenakshi and DGF. Yes, because we all are in together. So we all must, learn how to fight for our rights and know what is right, what is wrong. And I think this webinar is going to be a huge success and carry on. Thank you very much, Meenakshi.
Thank you, Dr. Achla.
So, Uma, is Dr. Uma there? Okay. So I think Dr. Uma is not in as yet. She's one of our organizing secretaries, and she has really worked hard for her. She was supposed to carry on with this particular one, must be caught somewhere else. So I will now take over for the first academic session. And for that, I would like to invite the chairpersons. So Neha, can I have you? So Dr. Raj Pukaria. She's the senior consultant at Max Patparganj, as well as at Fortis Laughlin. She has been the past president of the Delhi Gynecologist Forum East, and at present, she's the chairperson, medical legal cell of the DGF, and the main coordinator for an important course of PGD-MLS, which is being run by the DGF. Our next chairperson is Dr. Aparna Sharma. She's the additional professor, Division of Maternal Fetal Medicine, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. She is the main chairperson of the AOGD Quality Improvement Committee. She's the North Zone Coordinator, Safe Motherhood Committee, FOXY 2020 to 2023. May I now request Dr. Raj Bukaria to please introduce the speaker, Dr. Gitendra.
At the outset, thank you, Dr. Jyoti. And at the outset, I thank the organizer, AOGD and DGF for giving me this opportunity and to a part of this webinar. It's my immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Gitendra Sharma, who is the legendary and expert in the medical legal field. A very well-known person indeed across the country as an encyclopedia in the medical legal subject. After practicing as a gynecologist for years, he decided to do the law and did LLB with 15 gold medals and topped in the Gujarat University. He has written 3 books that is the Law in Obs and Gynae, Consent in Obs and Gynae, and Law a Doctor Must Know. He has given more than 1,500 lectures all over the country, and it is always his belief that ignorance of law is not an excuse. So he is a very enthusiastic to spread and share his medical legal knowledge to all the doctors to prevent litigation, to protect the medical fraternity, and to do a fear-free practice. Ever since I know him for the last 1 year, since the DGF has started a medical legal certified course under his leadership and Dr. Sharda Jain's, I can say that he is very humble person and a very dedicated person to help the medical fraternity. Round the clock, whenever you call him, even at the odd hours in night, he always responds back. He has been elected as a Vice President FOXY 2020, and I am sure he will certainly carry forward his mission. At last, I will not be doing justice if I don't mention that his best quality is that he only takes the legal cases for the medical fraternity. And I welcome you, sir, and we are eagerly waiting for your deliberation.
Good afternoon, everybody. In the beginning, I will pay my regards to Dr. Sharda Madam, who is my mentor, Dr. Achla Madam, for giving me this opportunity. I'm always happy to be in my family, that is Delhi Medical Gynec Forum and AOGD. I thank Dr. Jyoti Bhaskar for inviting me to deliver this lecture on telemedicine. See, whenever I give lecture, I used to say one thing, that lectures are not to make our friends practice in fear, but we want to make our friends fear-free in the practice. So if you will have proper knowledge, then you will lose your fear definitely in your practice. So same is here. Telemedicine is a new thing, and whenever somebody starts a new thing, then we are always fearful, and we want to remove that fear by understanding that what is telemedicine today. So I will be going through what is there in the telemedicine. Although everything is written in book as mentioned by Dr. Sharda Madam, we can definitely learn from that. But a few tips will definitely be included in the lecture. We all know before 25th March 2020, many medical councils, state medical councils, as well as a few high courts, including Supreme Court, were not in much favor of telemedicine. And you must be knowing the case of Maharashtra High Court, Dr. Pavaskar, husband and wife, both were kept in jail. And it was said that giving advice on phone without examining the patient, that is considered as gross negligence, and they were punished, other I can say prosecuted under 304, and they were kept in jail for a few days. Indian Medical Council, as we know, on 20th March, around 20th March 2020, there was a pandemic, and due to that pandemic, this is the blessings out of pandemic. So on 25th March, Indian Medical Council came out with one opinion, and they had amended this Indian Medical Council Professional Conduct Etiquette and Ethics Regulation 2002, and a section 3.8.1 was added into it. And through that section, it was said that consultation through telemedicine by registered medical practitioner under the Indian Medical Council Act 1956 shall be permissible. So it was made permissible, and it was said that it will be in force when it is published in official gazette. And immediately it was published in official gazette, and the amendment were also made in the MCI, this Indian Medical Council Act, and it was published on 14th May. So this particular section was added, and it was said that an Index 5 was added in Indian Medical Council Professional Code, and all the things in details are discussed in this Index 5. And it is said that if you want to telemedicine, if you want to do practice on telemedicine, then you have to follow this particular Index 5. There are a few definitions which are given in that. The first is telemedicine. Telemedicine has 5 parts in definition. First, it is a delivery of healthcare services. So telemedicine is for delivery of healthcare services, where distance is the critical factor. So where distance is the critical factor, at that time, this is a delivery system of healthcare services by all healthcare professionals who are registered in allopathic medicine under MCI 1956. So MBBS doctor can only do, minimum MBBS doctor who is registered in MCI can do this telemedicine. And this is through information and communication technology, and through which exchange of valid information for diagnosis, treatment, prevention of disease, injuries, research, evaluation, and education should be done. So this is telemedicine. Now telehealth is also been defined here. What is the meaning of telehealth? Telehealth is a delivery and facilitation of health and health related services, including medical care, provider and patient education, health information services, and self-care via telecommunication and digital communication technologies. So telehealth is a wide subject, while telemedicine is in reference to patients only. Who is registered medical practitioner? We all know that who is registered under MCI 1956 as a registered medical practitioner. So minimum MBBS doctor is registered as an RMP. Now, what are the scopes of guideline? Let us understand these. The guidelines are meant for RMPs only under MCI. So only this is only for allopathic doctors from up to MBBS, either they are MBBS or above that. Then these guidelines covers norms and standards for the purpose to consult patient via telemedicine. So this is for the communication in between patient and doctor. So there is a myth in the mind that sometimes two doctors, when they contact each other through some telemedia or communication, through some information and technology system, that is not considered as telemedicine. So patient is must. Suppose there is a patient, and in reference to a particular patient, if you are asking opinion of another RMP, that is a telemedicine. But suppose without any patient, if you discuss something with your colleague on phone, that is not telemedicine. So that should be clear in our mind. Telemedicine includes all channels of communication with the patient that leverage information So any platform, whether it is voice call, text message, or digital exchange of the message. So it can be audio, video, or teleconsultation. What are the things which are not included in telemedicine? So first and foremost, although in list it is mentioned last, but I will mention it first, that telemedicine in India is available in India only. You cannot do teleconsultation outside the jurisdiction of India. So that should be kept in mind. Specification for hardware and software is not there. So you can use anything. You can do telemedicine with computer, with mobile, or with any other platform. So it is not mentioned that what is a particular platform to be used. Data management system involves standards and interoperability. So you can use any media, use of digital technology to conduct a surgical procedure. So this is also important. You cannot perform operation or through telemedicine. You cannot guide somebody on phone and somebody else may do operation at a distant place. It is not allowed. And it is not said that from which particular place you are supposed to do telemedicine. So infrastructure, building and maintenance, these are the things which are excluded from these norms. So you can do telemedicine from anywhere you like. Okay. It is not that you can do telemedicine only from your hospital or not from home. It is not like that. So no registration is required from the place from where you are doing telemedicine. Now, there is one thing that just now to do telemedicine, there is no formal training available. But it is said that MCI or NMC will come out with a training system, in near future. And anybody, any RMP who wants to use telemedicine has to confirm or has to complete the course within 3 years of its notification. So up to 3 years, anybody can do teleconsultation even without formal training. But once that kind of training is been given by NMC, so within 3 years, RMP has to complete that training, formal training, and only then he will be allowed to do telemedicine practice. So an online program will be developed and made available by the governors in super session of Medical Council of India, and all RMPs who are interested in practicing telemedicine, they have to complete that online course within 3 years of its notification. So that must be kept in mind. Just now, this program is not been put forward. So anybody who is RMP can do the practice. Now, what are the tools for telemedicine? You all know any tool we can use. We can use telephone, we can use video devices connected with either LAN, WAN, internet, mobile, or landline phones. We can use chat platforms like WhatsApp, WeChat, and Facebook Messenger, etc., etc. So you can use anything, email, Skype, fax. These all are the different kinds of communication. So whatever is the meaning, whatever the platform through which you can communicate, you can pass on the information, you can use any platform for doing telemedicine. Now, there are multiple classification we can do in telemedicine. Depending upon mode of communication, we can say that you can do video communication. You can do audio communication through phone or voice app. You can do text-based telemedicine through email, through messages, through a chat platform. So these are all the different kinds of modes of communication. Now, depending upon the timing of information transmitted, the telemedicine is divided into two parts. One is real-time video, audio, text interaction. Real-time means immediately somebody is telling you something and you have to answer. While another form is asynchronous exchange of relevant information. So here, patient sends you the report on mail or through some media, and then you apply your mind, and then later on after going through the investigation report and all the reports of the patient, you give your advice. So that is the asynchronous exchange of data. Now, we can divide this telemedicine into 3 parts, depending upon the services. So whether it is a first consultation, whether it is emergency consultation, whether it is follow-up consultation. So what do you mean by first consultation? First consultation means patient may consult with an RMP for diagnosis and treatment of her condition or for health education and counseling for the first time. Okay, for the first time. And what is follow-up consultation? For the same complaint, if patient is contacting the doctor within 6 months. Now, if complaint is changed, then it will be a fresh consultation again. And if 6 months already have passed, then again, if patient comes even for same complaint, that will be considered as first consultation. Hope I am clear. So first consultation means very first time patient is consulting you. Second is when after elapse of 6 months for the same complaint even patient is coming, that will be considered as first consultation. And third, if patient comes for the different complaint within 6 months, that will be considered as first consultation. So follow-up consultation means within 6 months for same complaint, if patient is coming to you, that is follow-up consultation. Now in emergency consultation, you should only advise first aid. See, that is the principle. You should not advise much treatment or much medicine whenever patient contacts you in emergency. And in case alternative care is not present, suppose patient was on road with accident, so you can advise only looking to the patient that you be in this position or in that position and immediately call 108 and reach as early as possible to the hospital. So these are all the advices on phone in emergency should be given. So we should avoid prescribing medicine, and we should rather force patient to reach as early as possible to the doctor for the treatment. So in all cases of emergency, the patient must be advised in-person interaction with an RMP at the earliest. Okay, and not to give only the emergency instructions, nothing else. No medicine as far as possible should be prescribed. Now, depending upon what are the kinds of telemedicine. See, telemedicine, sometimes patient calls RMP directly. So that is one form. Now, suppose patient is under the care of some caregiver, and caregiver on behalf of patient contacting the doctor. Third, suppose patient is taking treatment from some health worker or some nurse, ANM nurse or some health worker. Then that health worker can contact RMP on behalf of patient for advice that what should be done to the patient. And last but not least, RMP to RMP. That means some patient is coming or taking advice of some RMP, and that RMP is taking advice for that patient from another RMP on phone. So these are the 4 techniques. Now, what is the basic difference in between these? That whenever patient himself or herself contact RMP, that implies that patient is asking for the treatment and there is no need to take fresh consent in this. There is an implied consent of the patient that I want to take treatment. So no separate consent is required. While caregiver or health care worker or RMP, if they are contacting another RMP for advice, then that written or explicit consent is required for that purpose. Now, there are different technology used for the mode of communication, as we have discussed: audio, video, text. There are all pros and cons of different kind of technologies. Guidelines for telemedicine in India, it is said that the professional judgment of a registered medical practitioner should be the guiding principle for all the telemedicine consultation. That means it is the prerogative of doctor to decide that which kind of consultation is required, whether audio consultation will be okay or video consultation is required or text message will be enough. So that will be the decision of doctor. to decide, or RMP to decide. An RMP is well positioned to decide whether a telemedicine based consultation, based consultation or technology based consultation is sufficient or not. So if you feel that in a particular patient percussion is required or auscultation is required, or we can say there are different methods: inspection, percussion, palpitation, this palpation and auscultation. So on even video consultation, you can do only inspection, and to certain extent you can auscultate also through the help of some RMP, but you cannot do palpation and percussion. So if you think that some kind of this type of examination is needed and you are not able to diagnose without this kind of examination, then you can pause that telemedicine or teleconsultation at that point, and you can ask patient to come in person, and that will be your decision. Even patient can also stop at any time the consultation and may demand that I will come in person if they are also not satisfied. Practitioner shall exercise proper discretion and should not compromise on the quality of care. See, you are responsible, you are accountable for whatever you are doing. There is no excuse that whatever treatment I have given is without percussion or without palpation or without auscultation, so error can be error in diagnosis should be pardoned. So that kind of excuses are not available legally. So if you are sure regarding the provisional diagnosis or your diagnosis, only then prescribe to the patient. So basically there are 7 steps in telemedicine. First, we can say it is a context, means for what patient is asking consultation and what kind of consultation doctor feel necessary for the patient. Second, identification of patient as well as RMP is must. So you have to introduce yourself. First, you take the details of the patient, identification and everything can be confirmed, and then you have to introduce yourself, that what is your qualification, where you are practiced, what you are practicing. So in detail, you have to introduce yourself. Then you have to decide that what mode of communication will be needed. Then you should take consent. Then you have to decide the type of consultation, whether it is first consultation or follow-up or emergency consultation. Then you have to evaluate patient. And last but not least, that you have to manage patient. We will look stepwise. See, in telemedicine, it is appropriate and sufficient in context. So we have to ask the patient that for what purpose patient wants to consult. And after that, registered medical practitioner has discretion to decide. He has to take his professional judgment that which kind of teleconsultation is needed in a particular case. Complexity of patient's health condition. Every patient case medical condition may be different. For example, a new patient may present with a simple complaint such as headache, while a known patient of diabetes may consult for a follow-up with emergency such as diabetic ketoacidosis. So these are all different kinds of the situation. So it differs patient to patient. The RMP shall uphold the same standard of care as in an in-person consultation, but within the intrinsic limit of telemedicine. So there is no excuse to a doctor that I have given telemedicine and not auscultated, not examined the patient, and that's why this mistake happened. That excuse is not available, and we have to be careful. That's why. Now, identification of registered medical practitioner as well as patient. You can demand name proof, age proof, photo ID or email ID, phone number, or registered ID of the patient from for the confirmation of the identification of the patient. So whatever you need, you can demand either on phone or on video chat or on email. You can demand age proof on mail. Okay, so you have to first confirm yourself that the patient you are advising is the same. Okay, who is talking to you? That should be confirmed. And in the same way, RMP should introduce himself or herself to the patient, that what is the qualification, what is the experience, what is the name, what is the registration number. So we all know that in Indian Medical Council Professional Code of Conduct, there is a provision that wherever you write the name, you should write the registration number. Okay, so you have to write the degree as name and registration number everywhere, wherever it is possible. So in your site also, in your any printed material, everywhere these three things should be there. So every RMP shall display the registration number, name, and with the number of this degree on prescription, on website, on any electronic communication, either through WhatsApp or email, or if you issue any receipt to the patient. So in all the printed material, it should be mentioned. Now, mode of telemedicine, as I have said, it can be video, audio, or text consultation. This is the discretion of doctor to decide that what kind of consultation will be needed. Patient's consent, as I have said, that when patient contacts doctor, that means it is an implied consent. So in this case, the separate consent is not required. But whenever health worker, caregiver, or RMP contacts another RMP for the treatment of patient, then it is compulsory to take explicit consent from the patient that I am authorizing this person to take advice on my behalf, and that kind of consent should be in either on video consultation or in audio consultation to be recorded, or you can demand it on email also. So whenever you are treating some minor patient who is below 18 years, then you will need that some guardian who is above the age of 18 years should be accompanying the patient, and you will take the consent of that guardian. Exchange of information of the patient. See, there is no change in an in-person consultation as well as video or audio consultation. So you have to ask details of the patient to your satisfaction. You have to ask what is chief complaint in detail with origin, duration, progress. You have to ask patient all the histories, personal history, present history, past medical, surgical history, menstrual history, obstetric history. So all the histories should be asked in detail. History of any allergy, history of major diseases like heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, COX, or thyroid disorder. So all these things are to be asked in the similar fashion what you are doing in in-person consultation. So there is no excuse for not asking history or not asking chief complaints. Now, examination part, as we have discussed, that in clinical examination, there is restriction on telemedicine, that you can only, on video consultation, you can inspect the patient. On audio consultation, you can hear the patient's voice. And on text consultation, you can get the reports only, or the details in writing from the patient. So there is no excuse. Suppose on video consultation, you are putting some provisional diagnosis on paper after only inspection. Then you have to confirm yourself that whether you are in perfect position to put that provisional diagnosis or not. And only then you can advise accordingly to the patient. So you ask everything in detail, and at any point of time, if you feel that information cannot lead to your provisional diagnosis, or it is not possible to reach to the provisional diagnosis through history taking or through inspection or through clinical examination on consultation, then you should stop or pause at that time the consultation, and you can ask the patient to come in person. Or if you want to advise some investigation, suppose X-ray is advised, or ECG is advised, or some pathological test is advised, then after advising these investigations, you can pause your consultation. And once these tests are done, then you can again restart that consultation. So this is the way of doing teleconsultation. So the telemedicine has its own set of, we can say, intimation for adequate examination. If a physical examination is critical information for consultation, then RMP should not proceed until a physical examination can be arranged through an in-person consultant. So it is your duty to decide that at what time you should stop the consultation or you can pause the consultation. You cannot take excuse later on that a physical examination was not possible and that was the reason for not properly diagnosing the condition. So type of consultation, as we have discussed, you have to decide that whether it is a first consultation or follow-up consultation or emergency consultation. As we have discussed, first consultation means patient is first time consulting you on audio or video consultation. Follow-up consultation means patient whether have consulted you in person or on your audio or video at least once before within 6 months for the same complaint. But if complaint is changed, so even within 6 months, that consultation will be considered as first consultation. And if 6 months elapsed after first consultation, so again it will be counted the first consultation. Patient's management. Now, after examination and history taking, when you reach to some provisional diagnosis, what kind of management you can do on telemedicine? So either you can educate the patient or you can counsel the patient. And sometimes if you feel the need to prescribe medicine, you can definitely prescribe the medicine. So health education can be given to the patient regarding the health. What is health education? Suppose patient is developing bronchitis or bronchial asthma, then you can tell that please leave the smoking, reduce the activity or do some work, do some exercise, physical activity, avoid a few things for avoiding contagious infections. So these all education should be given through telemedicine. So suppose in corona pandemic, you can advise patient that how to protect you. तो बार बार आप साबुन से हाथ धोएं, मास्क पहनिए, 2 मीटर की दूरी बना के रखिए. These are all the instructions or education you can pass on to the patient on telemedicine. Counseling, you can definitely counsel the patient. Suppose patient is heavy, obese, then you can advise that what should be eaten and what should not be eaten by the patient. So what are the do's and don'ts in a particular case? Suppose patient is taking anti-cancer drugs, then how it should be taken, how much dose should be taken. So these are all the things. Patient is using hearing aid, so you can guide and counsel that how it is to be used. So these are all the things which falls into counseling. Now regarding prescribing medicine, there is limitation in telemedicine. So in telemedicine, the medicines are divided in few categories, and those categories can be used in a particular way of telecommunication. So we will look into it that what are these kind of medicines. So there are certain limitations on prescribing medicines. The categories of medicines that can be prescribed on different consultation is clearly defined by the government, and a board is formed. Now NMC will form a board, and that board will decide day by day. Later on, when this telemedicine will flourish, they will decide that which medicine falls in which category, and they will put it in different index. Okay, so the category of medicine that can be prescribed are listed below. First is list O. List O means, as O suggests, it is the over-the-counter medicine. So these are very simple medicines which can be prescribed on audio consultation, video consultation, or on any kind of consultation. So patient suppose calling you on phone, sir मुझे बुखार आ रहा है, तो you can prescribe कि आप पैरासीटामोल ले लीजिए. अगर patient कहता है मुझे खांसी आ रही है, तो you can tell that okay, take cough lozenges. If patient is telling that sir I am suffering from diarrhea, then you can say you can take ORS. So these are the kinds of medicine which have no or near to nil side effects, and they are over the counter available even without prescription of doctors. That kind of medicines you can prescribe even on audio consultation or on text consultation or on video consultation. Any kind of consultation you can prescribe. And one more thing, that whenever there is a specific kind of medicines for endemics or pandemics or for epidemics, which government has specifically announced. Suppose in suppose a fixed area where there is an endemic of malaria, and government says that whoever is having fever, you can prescribe chloroquine. So that kind of orders, if government has given, so you can give that medicine on this kind of prescription. This is the list O. So these all medicine, ORS, cough syrup, antipyretic, and these chloroquine for malaria endemics. So these kind of medicines fall in category O. Now there is list A. What are these medicines? These medications are those which can be prescribed only on video consultation. Why on video consultation? Because only after proper inspection you can prescribe these medicines. Now, what are these medicines? So these medicines are, suppose there is some skin disease and you want to prescribe some ointment or lotion on skin. So local ophthalmological drops, ear drops. So these are the medicines which can be prescribed only through inspection. After inspection, you can reach to some provisional diagnosis and you can prescribe. And some medicines which are refill, means suppose somebody is taking medicines for hypertension regularly, or diabetes regularly, or medicine for asthma regularly. So same medicine can be refilled, means you can re-advise those medicines. So these kind of all medicines fall in category A. Now there is one category B. This is a list of medication which RMP can prescribe in a patient who is undergoing follow-up consultation. So not for the first consultation. So if you want to add some medicine, suppose patient is of hypertension and now patient is telling that I am getting headache and I feel that my BP is high. So you can add a few medicine in the medicines which patient is already taking. So suppose you add thiazide in antihypertensive medicine. So these are all the categories of add-on medicine. So if you want to add on medicine, suppose in diabetes patient is taking some medicine, and if you want to add metformin, etc. So these are all the add-on medicines and fall in category B. And last but not least is the prohibited list. So any medicine which falls in Schedule X drugs, okay, Schedule X of Drug and Cosmetic Act, or if it falls in Narcotic and Psychotropic Substance Act. Okay, so any drug which falls in these two lists are prohibited to be prescribed under telemedicine. So you cannot prescribe any NDPS, any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance on, so amphetamine, ephedrine, these are all the medicines which fall in this category. Heroines, morphines, pethidines, you cannot prescribe on telemedicine. And Schedule X drugs, which are Schedule X of Drug and Cosmetic Acts. These are the schedule which usually changes. So we have to keep in our mind that what are the medicines which fall in Schedule X of Cosmetic and Drug Act. So these drugs you cannot prescribe, or it is prohibited to prescribe on telemedicine. So this is the summary of different medicines. Now issue of prescription, how to prescribe. So dear friends, the MCI has issued this format of prescription and you have to prescribe in this format only. So height, weight, LMP, age, gender, date of consultation, name of patient, address, what is the chief complaint, what is the relevant history, what are the examination findings, and what is your provisional diagnosis, what are the investigations you have considered. Everything should be mentioned in the prescription. And then you are supposed to write the medicine, name of medicine in detail, in capital letter. And if possible, it is advisable to write with generic name. So this is the way of prescribing, and then it should be signed by RMP with degree and with registration number. So this is the way of prescription. And you cannot send this prescription directly in alphabetical manner on WhatsApp, but it should be communicated to the patient only in PDF format, or you can take a photograph and scan it and send it, so that it cannot be altered by anybody. So you have to send it after keeping photo or by doing scanning, or you can send digital copy which cannot be altered Okay, so this should be kept in mind. And if you have any tie-up with any pharmacist, that suppose I prescribe, you will directly give that medicine to the patient. And if that kind of settlement is there with the pharmacist, then explicit consent of the patient is required that, okay, I am ready to collect the dispensed medicine from this pharmacy. So that should be kept in mind. Now, duties and responsibilities of an RMP in general. It is said that all the acts which are applicable in a normal routine practice are also applicable on telemedicine. Okay. So, principle of medical ethics, including professional norms of IMC and all other acts shall be binding on us. So we cannot say that a particular act will not be applicable while practicing telemedicine. Patient can definitely sue you in civil court, in consumer court, in criminal case can be filed even against you. And all ethical guidelines are applicable on you in practice. So registered medical practitioner will not be held responsible for breach of confidentiality. It is the duty of doctor to maintain the privacy of the patient, but doctor will never be held liable if some defect is done by some technology. Okay, so what care you have taken to maintain the privacy is important. So suppose you have maintained the confidentiality, but if it is breached due to the problem in technology, then you will not be held responsible for the same. Only they will see that you have taken reasonable care to maintain the confidentiality of the patient. Misconduct, we all know there are multiple examples of unethical act and misconduct in our Indian Medical Council Professional Code of Conduct, Etiquette and Ethics Regulation 2002. But regarding telemedicine, a few things we should keep in our mind, that RMP cannot insist patient for telemedicine if patient is ready to come to the hospital for in-person consultation.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Gitendra. You have 5 minutes more because we have the next session also.
Yeah, I will conclude in 2-3 minutes.
Yes, sure.
So then RMP misusing patient's image, RMP who use telemedicine to prescribe medicine from the specific prohibited group, and RMP not permitted to solicit patients even for telemedicine. The penalties will remain same. So you should keep in our mind that you are not immune from any law, even on practicing. You have to maintain all the documents as if you are maintaining it in a OPD patient or in an indoor patient. All the documents from registration form, consent, investigations, what we have done, prescriptions, any certificate you have given, any history you have asked, chief complaint you have asked, provisional diagnosis you have done. So everything you are supposed to maintain. All records are to be maintained either in scan or digital format or in hard copy you have to maintain. Fee for telemedicine. Telemedicine consultation should be treated the same way as the in-person consultation. And you can decide your fee and you can definitely take your fee. Only thing that when you take the fee, then you have to give the receipt or invoice of the same which you have charged to the patient. So nobody can say that you cannot charge for telemedicine. Telemedicine cannot be asked for free. You have right to ask for your charges. Now, these are all the framework. I am not going into detail. Okay, so these are the flow charts which are given, that how to see the patient when you are treating the patient through caregiver or health worker, or RMP is doing consultation with RMP. So basically emergency and you have to decide that what is an emergency and non-emergency consultation. In emergency consultation, as I have suggested, avoid prescribing medicine, give only the instructions and instruct patient to reach to the RMP as early as possible. There are audio, video and text kind of teleconsultation. You have to decide whether it is first consultation or follow-up consultation or emergency consultation. Group of drugs, you all know now, O, A, B, and prohibited. These are 4 groups. Maintain confidentiality of the patient, preserve documents, and your accountability remains the same as if you are seeing the patient in general or in person. So you have no excuse for any treatment done to the patient on telemedicine for error in diagnosis. So that excuse is not available. So dear friends, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Geetendra. I would now request Dr. Aparna to give her remarks.
Thank you. And sir, it has been really wonderful. And I would first like to congratulate the Delhi Gynecology Forum along with our QI committee co-chairperson, Dr. Jyoti Bhaskar ma'am, for taking this up really, because I think COVID has been a game changer in the way we practice medicine. We've all been teleconsulting, even in government setups, we are so routinely teleconsulting that, and also if we are not very careful, the slip-ups can really happen very soon. So sir, I would really like to congratulate you on this explicit talk. And I would say that some of the points that have really, I have, gone into me are that, in emergency, do not prescribe. The types of telemedicine is very important, and the implied consent. I think that is one thing that you've told us, that if patient calls you, the patient's consent is implied. But if I call the patient, then I have to take a written, a telephonic or a, video consult. I think some of the points which we really do not pay attention as clinicians sometimes are some things that you have really brought up in a very, very nice way. There would be a lot of doubts regarding prescribing, especially MTP drugs and all that. So I hope that is going to be covered in the panel discussion, or maybe those doubts will be cleared. So I'm sure, sir, your talk has been wonderful. We have gained a lot, and the questions would be attended to in the panel. So thank you so much, sir, and a great effort here from this forum.